more power, taking away our liberties, our rights, and everything else. And we're being told this is done to protect us. Now, what we have to do is get a group of congressmen in Washington, D.C. who are pledged to vote no on everything. Now, it may seem to you that if you got congressmen to vote no, would that prevent something like a World Trade Center bombing? The answer to your question is yes. And the reason for it is this. The communists only have one consideration when they decide to undertake an action, and that is whether or not that action is going to wake up too many people. If they can't get the desired result, they can't do the action. If you got congressmen pledged to vote no and will do it, that communist agitation, the communist promotion will stop. Now, I'll give you one example of that. Back in the late 60s, there was several conservative congressmen. They happened to be Republicans. They could have been Democrats. It really doesn't matter, because there were a few good congressmen. One of them was a guy named John Rousseau out of the Los Angeles area of California. And he told me, he said, "Charlie, we decided," that means that he and several other congressmen decided, that if they could get one or two freshman congressmen appointed to the House Ways and Means Committee, that maybe they could stop this federal spending. Because every year the federal government would spend more than it took in. They would simply tax us more, raise the national debt, spending gone wild. Well, Wilbur Mills was head of the Ways and Means Committee. These congressmen succeeded in getting two freshman congressmen appointed to the Ways and Means Committee. There were 35 members on that committee. These two freshman congressmen had promised that they were going to vote no on any increase in the debt. That's what the Ways and Means Committee does. It weighs the means to raise the debt, to spend more money. These are just 2 out of 35. Wilbur Mills had been getting unanimous votes all the time, spending money. Well, what happened was that the House Appropriations Committee spent more money than it took in. It goes to the Ways and Means Committee. Ways and Means to raise the extra money by putting more taxes on us and increasing the debt. Wilbur Mills came in, "All right, fellas, that's right, usual stuff." He expected a unanimous vote, which is what he'd been getting all the time. And this freshman congressman, who had been pledged to vote no, said, "No, I'm not going to do that. This has been going on for years. Every year you say it's the last one, but every year you do the same thing." And the second freshman got up and said, "I'm not going to vote yes or not either. I'm going to vote no. We're tired of spending all this money. These are freshmen." There was a revolt on the committee. In other words, these 35 men, these 33 other men, who've been just like dummies rolling over and voting yes, all of a sudden had a couple of guys with enough guts to say no. That's all it took. There was a revolt on the committee. The committee refused to authorize this extra federal spending, and Wilbur Mills had lost control of the committee. That is the reason why Wilbur Mills, in my opinion, was forced to fall on his sword. You remember what happened to Wilbur Mills? All of a sudden, this powerful congressman who was head of the Ways and Means Committee is 2 o'clock in the morning, Washington, D.C., in a high crime area. Nobody else on the street except Wilbur Mills, criminals, wherever they might be, maybe some police somewhere in the neighborhood, they're never around when you need them, and a photographer with several $1,000s worth of cameras hanging around his neck. Well, what happened was Wilbur Mills is frolicking with a stripper known